Wow.
Let her be cool. Let her be cool. Let her be cool. Let her be Let her be cool. Let her be cool. Let her be cool. Let her be cool.
Wow.
Hey. Oh na no. Oh na no. Oh na no. Oh na no. Oh na no.
Died in the 1970s, and it has been a zombie technology ever since. Did you know that? See, that's the problem. That's how fucked up we are, as the Americans say. I would never say such a thing. But our problem is management, the social technology, the mere idea how we run organizations. Sometimes we also call this thing leadership, but we mean management, and management, again, is a zombie technology. All this is, management, the social technology, is a killer thing for organization. It is a burden, and it creates incredible suffering. And I want to explain to you why that is, and what the alternative to management, the social technology is. So I want to take you on a little adventure, and to make this clear, I do not believe in convincing people. So I'm not trying to convince you here. What I would like to offer you are some thinking tools, some ideas in the line of some of the ideas that Eddie Obang introduced us to in his first session today. I would like to give you a sample of ideas to make us think better about organizations and about the problems that we are facing. For example, has any of you ever said something like, oh, our organization's culture is not so good, or it's here in Ghana, we have a cultural problem? Has any of you ever said something like that? Or has anybody here in the room ever tried to change culture of your organization? No? That's good. If you have tried, you cannot have succeeded. It is impossible to improve culture. Culture changes all the time. We like to say in systems theory, and I am a systems theorist, we say culture is like a shadow. Every organization, every team, every country, every nation produces culture all the time. It's a side effect of the mere existence of a system or an organization or a team. But we can never change culture. We can only observe. It's like a shadow. So imagine I'm standing here in the light and there is a shadow. I can never change my shadow, right? I can never change the shadow. I can only change my shadow if I change myself or wait for the sun to get up or down. So if you ever have tried to change your organization's culture and that didn't work out, it didn't work out because we cannot work it, we cannot manage it. We can only observe it and change the system so that maybe then the culture changes. It's like that with trust. I loved the question to Eddie Obang about trust. And he very wisely said, well, trust, you can only work on it. If you don't have it, you can build it, you can construct it. But don't just sit here and say that you don't have trust and that is so horrible. No, you have to work to create it. And it's like that with many things, like quality, customer engagement. You can only work on it, but you cannot prescribe it or force it. Now, back to our starting question. Management, the social technology, is dead. Here you see what management is in essence. Do you see the idea behind this image? What do you see? There's a person at the top and there's a group of people, lower. That is the idea of management. Management is a social technology that was invented 104 years ago. 1911 is the year that management, the social technology, was invented. And who was the inventor of management, the social technology? Any guesses? It was an American. As so many things. This was also invented in the United States. The inventor of management, his name is Frederick Taylor. Frederick Taylor in 1911 came up with the idea, and that was a brilliant idea, to liberate the work from the thinking. That's the great idea behind management, the social technology. To liberate, to free the work. The work is being done by the lower people here, and the thinking is happening at least one hierarchical level at the top. People at the top of the organization, They think and they make decisions and they give commands down to the non-thinkers so that the non-thinkers can execute. And we also add to this functional division, you know, we have HR and procurement department and production department and logistics and administration and whatever you have. So we think this is the natural way of organizing. Why? Because this idea of structuring like that has been such a huge success. Now the problem with that is that it doesn't work anymore. And this is not just an opinion, it's a matter of fact. There is something that happened 40 years ago that killed management, the social technology. And to get into that, we must talk about this distinction. There is a distinction here between two concepts. On the left, complicated. On the right, complex. Now, what's the difference between the complicated and the complex? Complicated. An example for a complicated system is? What is do you have an example for a complicated system? You have one on the table, by the way. The phone, exactly, a cell phone. Any machine, any software is complicated. It is not complex. Does any of you have a loved one, a wife, husband, somebody you like or at least sleep with or something? And have you ever said to that person, yes, you have it. I imagine that some hands would go up. I believe that most here have that. Have you ever said to that person, oh, you are so complicated? Whoever said this kind of thing to that person? I did. Because that other person isn't complicated. He or she is nice. People are not complicated. They are not machines. Now, in the works, there's a difference between a complicated system and a complex system. I would go through this. A watch, for example, complicated system, like the cell phone, like a software, like any machine. Chaos, no, chaos is a result of that thing. Change is also a result of that thing. Eddie talked a lot about that, the professor. Okay, so what do complex systems create? Like people? Unique. They are unique, and they are alive, true. They create something, order. Complex systems have an order that is different from the nature of complicated systems, but there's order in any system. Even in chaos there's an order. You know what the end state is. Put milk into coffee and you know that there will be a mix between milk and coffee in your cup or whatever it is afterwards, after the process. That is a great example of chaos. I will tell you, complex systems create surprises. The result of surprises, of course, is change, uniqueness, chaos, uncertainty, all that stuff. But what the real distinction is, complex systems create surprises. A complicated system doesn't create surprises. It's broken or it works. In German, when a complicated system is broken, we call it kaputt. You know, that's what happens. So complex systems create surprises. And that's a matter of fact. That's the distinction here between those two kinds of systems. Now in work, by the way, a project team, is it complicated or is it complex? Let's just check up. Our chief Twitterer here, I know she cannot pay attention. She has to tweet all the time. She writes the best tweets about this conference, by the way. Karen Bose, what's your Twitter handle? At Bose Karen. Yes, that's very good. By the way, we have a hashtag as well. Agile in Africa is a hashtag, right? So you should all tweet about this conference. Okay, so now I forgot my question I wanted to ask. A project team, is it complicated or complex? It's complex. Living beings. And also, if you create a project, what kind of problem do you face? Complicated or complex? That's a difficult question, maybe. Not sure. Depends? No, it depends. Nothing. You know, in the realm of the complicated, you can create rules. You can create algorithms, standards. You can control that complicated system. You can create processes. In the realm of the complex, those things stop working because of surprises. So you need, instead of rules, you need principles. Instead of processes, you need a project. Only that thing can solve complex problems. Now, in work, those two realms, the complicated and the complex, they meet all the time. Have you ever worked? I mean, yeah, okay, let's assume you have all worked at some point. Work always has both things, the complicated and the complex. If I write an email to Karen, which I did a couple of times, actually. After a while, I expect my software, my Outlook systems, if I write the letter K into a certain field or box in Outlook, then I expect my system to suggest, Karen and Katharina and Klaus, and there are not so many people I know who start with K, right? So that's the complicated part of writing an email. The software it suggests names, or lists of people and addresses and so on. But if I want to write an email to Karen, then the complex part is, how am I feeling? How will she likely be feeling? What's our relationship? Is she pissed because of the last email I sent to her? Should I use bullet points or not? Those touchy-feely things, those personal things, they are complex. So work always has this mix, the complicated and the complex. Now, the trouble with our organizations, your organizations here in Ghana and everywhere in the world, is that we are not very well trained in respecting the difference between the complicated and the complex. We think it's just the same, and it isn't. Look, let's travel back in time, 150 years back, or 200 years. In that age, I don't like to call it the agricultural age because it's not very interesting to talk about the difference between agriculture and industry and the knowledge age. What we had 200 years ago, everywhere in the world, was crafts manufacturing. And that was very interesting. In crafts manufacturing, we didn't really have global markets. We had very, very tiny local markets. Every village was a market, or a city or a town was a market. Actually, most of the cities in most countries only emerged in that era 200 or 250 years ago. So if you wanted to build a set of chairs in a town, maybe here in Accra, you wouldn't compete with a chair maker in another city or town. Efficiency, 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 and not so much, competitiveness, innovation, customer, closeness with customers. It wasn't so important in the industrial age. Then in the 1970s, management dies, and you see it here why that happens. The first company that came up with a solution to mass produce in a customized way, they were, in the 1970s, we called them the miracle. It was a company that was able to produce the best quality cars at the lowest cost. What was the name of that company? The miracle? Toyota, the Japanese miracle. Oh. They were the first company. Why is that a reason to laugh? Not sure. Why is that funny? Our colleague here has to explain. No? Yes? No? She's writing something, but I don't know. Is this a last letter to... She doesn't want us to talk about it. Okay. So Toyota, the Japanese miracle, they were the first to figure out how to do this highly complex value creation in a massive way, on a massive scale. And to be both efficient and effective. And maybe you remember the story. Toyota was a company that said, we don't actually have supervision at work. We don't have supervisors. We don't have managers steering the workers' manufacturing work. Actually, the workers weren't individual cogs in the machine, like in a Taylorist org chart. They were configured into self-driving teams that would not only produce the cars, but also improve their work, Kaizen. Huh? Theory Z doesn't really exist. We will talk about that later, because the Theory Z said Japanese are different. I heard this kind of stuff in some of the questions today. Hey, here in Ghana, we are different. One of the colleagues here to the left, she said, oh no, we people in Ghana, we like to mingle in markets. Did you hear that as well? We are different. I lived in a couple of countries. Everywhere, people think they are different. This is so funny. I think it's just an excuse for not changing. You fucking Americans, you do whatever you want. Fuck you, we don't care, we are different. And I heard that, I lived in so many countries, even in America, it's like that. Those guys from Texas, but we don't change. Or those guys in Texas, they say, East Coast guys, we don't change. So saying we are different always also means, hell, I will not change. I will not adapt. But okay, this, the proposal that I want to make you is, this happened everywhere in the world. In some industries, of course, this change to high complexity and value creation towards the right side here of the Taylor bathtub. It happened a little earlier, like in car manufacturing or retail. In some industries, in some countries, markets became like those on the right side, you know, knowledge on the information society market. That happened earlier or later, but it happened everywhere. And it affects companies around the world. Because, of course, management, the social technology, org charts and that kind of stuff, it became a standard in the industrial age. So I would figure that 99% of companies, except one here by our friend here, most are on the left side. They have this model of command and control, management, you know, top down, lots of planning. Eddie Obang talked about this extensively. What is the alternative then? Let's take a look at the alternative. Management, the social technology, died when Toyota came up in the 1970s and when complexity returned into value creation. Okay? That happened 40 years ago. And the problem is that we are still trying to steer organizations from the top down, to run them in a centralized way. I will show you how that looks systemically. This is from systems theory. Systems theory told us, it teaches us that organizations actually don't have tops and bottoms. They are not pyramids, like on the left side here, pyramids. Organizations are actually peaches. Does that make sense to you? Is the peach a fruit that is common in Ghana? I didn't check. No? No, okay, but do you know what a peach is? Yeah, okay. So I'm not sure if there's any other. Yeah, mango, the mango company. Left, pyramid, right, mango. Perfect, the mango organization. We will talk about the mango organization. Because in the industrial age, high complicatedness and value creation, little surprise you could steer the organization from the top. In the mango organization, you see it here, who should be in charge? Take a look at we have the market outside the organization. Every mango has a skin, you know, you see the skin here. And inside the organization there are two parts. The periphery, which is the juicy, fruity stuff of the mango, and the center, that is the core thing, the hard thing that you throw away, you know, usually. So that new mango trees can blossom in the future. Now, don't take this metaphor to the extreme. This is just, you know, to explain the image of center and periphery. Organizations don't have tops and bottoms, really. They have center and periphery. And look, who's creating value for whom? This is about who creates value for whom. It works like this. If you have a Tayloristic company, the customer comes, approaches the company. Let's say you are, we talked about banks. What is Ghana's most horrible bank? The one you like less? Yeah, they are all crap. In most countries, I get this answer. Not here, of course. Is anybody here working in banking? Your bank is the exception, if you are here, yeah? We are only talking badly about other people's companies. But let's imagine, you know, I now live in Germany again. In Germany, we have horrible banks, like Commerzbank, Deutsche Bank, for example. That's a crappy company. It is totally brain dead, as you... so imagine Deutsche Bank. So a customer approaches Deutsche Bank. That's an impulse for the system, you know. The customer meets the periphery. Of course, the periphery has to follow commands, cannot act, you know, because it's centrally steered, you know, very bureaucratic. So the information is put into an Oracle or SAP or whatever information system, sent to the center, and a decision is taken in the center, a command flows back, and then there can be execution. That's how centralization or bureaucracy or Taylorism works in practice, right? But it cannot work in my organization because people are so stupid and so on. So let's do a little bit of science, please. I want to get into a scientific experiment with you, and the scientific experiment starts with these Post-it notes. Please pick up these Post-it notes here. Everyone should have somewhere on your table. You should have these Post-it notes. You need one pink and one yellow. Please hold up your pink Post-it note for just a second. Everybody needs a pink Post-it note. If you don't have one, I have a few more. Okay, great. I see them. Great. This is good to take a photo of the pink Post-it notes. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, pink Post-it note. Oh, okay, we get the method. Okay, thank you very much. Now, in a few seconds, you will have to write something on it. Prepare for that. You will have to write both on the pink and the yellow Post-it note. But first, we will have to talk about this concept here. Who of you knows the author of this concept? Theory X and Theory Y? Douglas McGregor, 55 years ago, wrote a fantastic book. I mean, Frederick Taylor, 1911, wrote that fantastic book, The Principles of Scientific Management, and gave the world management, the social technology, which was fantastic for a while, but then died in the 1970s. Now, Douglas McGregor wrote his great book in 1961. 1961. It was called Human Side of the Enterprise. Human Side of Enterprise. And in that book, Frederick Taylor, he was the first to have come up with this idea that we have two ideas about human nature, about other people in our heads and mind and hearts. One of these theories about human nature, he called it Theory X, that's on the left side, and the other is Theory Y on the right side. I will walk you through these two concepts. They are very important. We will do this scientific experiment about it in a few seconds. Douglas McGregor says, okay, one idea about human nature that we have in our hearts is that other people dislike work. They will avoid work if they can, you know. So in order to have them develop some responsibility, some sense for the work, we have to force them or bribe them to make an effort, you know. We have to force them into responsibility, which they like to avoid. They are lazy, basically. People are motivated mainly by money or fear to lose their jobs. That's another assumption of Theory X. And the assumption about creativity here is that few people have creative potential, except when it comes to circumnavigating management rules, you know. Okay, this is Theory X. Have you ever thought about this, about people in this way? Probably, right? The brilliance of Douglas McGregor was to identify things that we already know about, you know. This is one concept of human nature. Now, the other concept about human nature is Theory Y. Theory Y, by the way, how do we call motivation on the left side? How is it called? There is a scientific term how to call this kind of motivation here on the left. Theory X. Extrinsic motivation. Theory X says motivation is not intrinsic to us, it has to be extrinsic, forced, you know, and that's management's role or manager's role to motivate people extrinsically from outside. You know? Now the assumption on the right is different. Theory Y says people have to feed themselves and their loved ones, they have to work, but they also want to take an interest in the work. And if the conditions are right, people can actually enjoy work and have fun at work. So if you look at the other assumptions here, people will direct themselves towards a target that they can accept. People will accept responsibility if the conditions are right. Under the right conditions, people are motivated by the desire to fulfill their own potential. And about creativity, Theory says, well, creativity is or creative potential, it's widely available within people, but grossly underused by organizations. You got it? Two concepts about human nature, they don't mix. Is that okay? A person can either be X or Y, that doesn't mix. Maybe behavior could jump from one side to the other, but not human nature. Human nature is one thing. You are X or you are Y. Now, let's do the scientific experiment. Please pick up the pink Post-it note, take a pen, and now, the difficult part, look into your heart. Don't open it. You know, it's a mess. Whenever people do that in my sessions, it's a mess. Look into your heart, think about what kind of person are you, yourself? And don't think about your behavior. Behavior might be, you know, it might be volatile or so, but your human nature, it can only be X or Y. Please look inside your heart, judge yourself, are you X or Y, and write just that letter on the pink Post-it note. Or an X or a Y. Look inside your own heart, judge yourself, X or Y. Should be simple. If there is a question, ask a question. Is there a question? Is there a doubt about or do you think the research method I'm offering you is crap? Do you think it's nonsense? Yes? Otherwise, please just write one letter on the pink Post-it note. Did that? Okay, now exchange that Post-it note with somebody else at your table. Can be any person. Just give it to that other person and accept the Post-it note back. You need another pink Post-it note again. Everybody should have, after this, should have a pink Post-it note, but somebody else wrote something on it, you know? A letter. Is that okay? Not big surprises, right? No surprises? No surprises. Okay, did you exchange a Post-it note? It doesn't matter whose Post-it note you have here, which pink Post-it note you have. Some people say this is the best part of my speeches. Because you get to know other people at your table and so on. Okay. Now, that was easy, right? That was easy. You had to look into your heart, judge yourself, write it down. That was easy. Now, let's make it more complex, the task. Take the yellow post-it note, please. There's nothing written on it, right? I hope not. Take the yellow post-it note. Now think about all the people you work with or all the people in your organization. Let's see, Karen, how many people do you have? Karen and Rob, how many people at Capital One in the internationally? Let's take internationally. No, that's the UK, 2,000, but internationally with the US? 42,000. So our two friends here from Capital One, they will think about 42,000 people in their organization in the entire world, please. But it doesn't matter if your organization has 20 people or 200,000. Think about all of them, all of these people. Can you do that? Imagine them. Now look into their hearts. Don't open the hearts. You know? Look into their hearts. What is their essence, their human nature? What are they like in their essence? Not in their behavior, but in their essence. And now please judge them and write on the yellow post-it note the percentage of theory X people within that group. Now, for the philosophers here, a percentage is 0 or 100 or something in between. Yeah? Sometimes I like to explain that. A percentage. The percentage of X people in your organization. You don't have to write the other percentage of Y people down because that's just the rest, you know, but just the X people percentage. You have to judge. We will not talk about this outside of this room, you know, this is a secret. Nobody will tell you results, so you can write whatever you feel is the right judgment, is the right percentage. Did that? Any questions about it, about the method? No questions? No protest? Okay, I invite you really to judge other people, but they don't take it personally. Nothing bad happens, okay? So, now please exchange the yellow post-it note with another person again. And take a yellow post-it note back. Everybody needs a yellow post-it note again. Okay? All right. That was more complicated, right? Or maybe even more complex. Pink, self-judgment. Yellow, judging other people. You know? Okay, let's take the... You now have a pink post-it note that somebody else wrote a letter on it. Please take it into your hand. Take the pink post-it note into your hand. If it says X, please hold it up. Only if it says X, please hold it up, and you have to hold it up really high so that everybody here, you have to take a look around. Please take a look around. You have to keep it up. Though X post-it notes, what the hell happened in that corner? What the fuck? Okay. Okay, thank you. Those were maybe 15 post-its, right? 15 post-its. Just a second. The X's. They're students, but still there's a problem. I will talk about this. Yes, thank you. You can now take the post-its down. Thank you. They are students. That was a funny remark, by the way. Yeah, maybe next time you should sit here in the front because you're not hearing well what I said before. But we would talk about it all. And there's therapy when you go outside. No, there's a problem with this, and we will talk about it in a second. There's no problem. We saw maybe 12 or 15 post-it notes, right? True to statistic method, I will round that down to 0. Yeah. True to scientific and statistical method, I will round that down to 0. That's why, never believe in a statistics that you didn't falsify yourself. Yeah? Okay, we rounded that down to 0, so there were no pink post-its appearing. Now take the yellow post-its, please. Take the one that somebody else wrote a number on it, right? It says, if it says 0 or 0%, please hold the yellow post-it up. Only 0 or 0%. What the hell happened at these tables in the front? Aha, they are different. Okay, I see. Do you get the problem? Did you see we had 0 pink post-its? Well, maybe 15, but we rounded it down to 0. And we had very few yellow post-its. Was there one at the back as well? 0%? Very few. Do you see why we are all in a mess, in a big mess? Do you see it? What's the problem? What's the problem? What's the problem with the result? It's not a reflection of reality? How? There is a
Fundamental attribution error.
fundamental attribution error. What do you mean? What the hell is that supposed to mean? Can you say that in real English, like people's English? He was exactly right, by the way. Exactly right, but I had to tease him a little.
Of course, thank you for the teasing. So basically, we see ourselves positively, and sometimes we put our behaviors down to might be context. But other people, we might see them negatively, even more negatively than they are, and we usually put it down to their characteristics and nature.
Very nice. We judge ourselves. Perfect, perfect. Applause, please. Applause. The smartest guy in the room. Very good. Well, maybe, right? Maybe. But he put it so perfectly. I think it deserved a little applause. We judge ourselves by our intentions. We judge others by their behaviors or actions. So somebody said, I write a little software. It's perfect. It's perfect. It isn't. Nobody was evil. It is just a stupid system. Stupid organization creates stupid behavior. I think the Volkswagen case is beautiful. By the way, 5 years ago, they had another scandal. Not sure if you remember it. All this was about prostitution in Brazil, and they were taking, labor representatives to Brazil to have fun in nightclubs, At the time, I lived in Brazil, and I call that, development, international development activities. Third world help or support. I lived in Brazil for a long time. Please allow me to make fun of myself here at this point. There are many myths about performance and about organizational effectiveness, and I think this relates here well to Scrum and to Agile. Here we see here 4 different concepts. I will tell you what the left 2 concepts are: data and information. Data is something really that is unstructured. If we contextualize data, it turns into information. Yeah? Data is something like, it would be information if it had context. Data is just this clouded thing, it's like sand. And if we give context to data, we get information. Both these things, data and information, can be held by computers and machines. Now, the next concept, more to the right, the third concept, that is already in the realm of the human being. Information can be stored, data can be stored. And what is the thing here that the third box that can only be stored by human beings? Do you know what it is? If you assimilate information and learn it, what do you have? Knowledge. Knowledge. The third concept is knowledge. Knowledge is very important in which world? Complicated or complex? Complex, wrong. Also. If the world is complicated, if the problems you encounter are complicated, they repeat themselves over time. Knowledge is very helpful if you encounter problems that somebody has already experienced. For example, if I ask my 15-year-old son about something, he always said, just a minute, I have to YouTube it. I have to check it on YouTube, or Wikipedia, or Google, If you look for, if I ask him something that already exists, that is already answered, you find it on the web. Which is a fantastic thing. So knowledge is assimilating information. And knowledge as a child of the, information and knowledge is always a child of the past. It's highly valuable to have knowledge if things are repetitive, stable, standardized, repeatable, complicated. Now, there is something that we need in the knowledge age that is not really knowledge. This is why these names are all fucked up. Knowledge is actually for the industrial age. And what's the thing on the right that we need that is not knowledge and that only, it's hard to acquire. You cannot just read something on Wikipedia and be capable. If you encounter new problems, surprising problems, we need the thing on the right. That is called mastery. Mastery is not like knowledge. Knowledge, we get it by studying, by looking for information, sucking up information. Mastery, you only acquire it through practice and practice and practice and practice and practice. Learning, yeah, but both is learning. Acquire knowledge and acquire mastery is both learning, but there are 2 types of learning, actually. One is the acquisition of knowledge, the other is the disciplined practice that leads us to mastery. Now, in today's world, we still need knowledge. but we need more and more mastery. Only people with ideas can be masters. Only people who have exercised, practiced over time, maybe 10,000 hours, like Malcolm Gladwell writes in one of his books, right? Often you need a lot of time to acquire and achieve mastery. Sometimes you actually have to sit next to a master to acquire the mastering. That's why, by the way, Scrum Master courses are a lie. We have to move from knowledge to mastery, from pyramid to mango, not peach, mango. We have to move from command and control to real leadership. We have to move from management to leadership. I like to call it from alpha to beta. Alpha is the model of the past, you know, where we do performance management, like at the top, at the bottom here, individual targets, and we force people with fear, and we give them incentives and bonuses. In the Mango model, we need to define targets in a different way, pay people differently. Command and control will not work in this new world that we have, you know, in the knowledge age. So we need different ways of dealing with performance, different principles also. The Agile framework is exactly, or the Agile principles are very much aligned with the principles that we found out in our research that organizations like Toyota apply. But Agile is not enough. Scrum alone is not enough. We also have to change organizations from the industrial age model to the today's age model. We have to shift the way we deal with performance. We have to shift the way we deal with company resources. We have to dissolve functional silo structure and create radical decentralized structures in which autonomous teams in the periphery can really think and act both at the same time. We have to do this with small organizations and large organizations. This is not a matter of taste. This is not a matter of Ghana or Brazil. The times have already changed, and our model of organizing from the industrial age will not work, not only not in the future, but not even today. It has stopped working. We have to change the way we organize. We have to start to collaboratively work the system and stop working the people all the time. Thank you very much for your attention.
Let's give him a big round of applause, by the way. And let's take one or two questions, and we have to move swiftly on at 3 p.m. to Ken Schwaber. Somebody has his hands up over there. Very quickly, yeah?
As we don't have much time, my answers will be short and rude. I like that. It's easy for me.
I'm not scared.
Good.
Good afternoon, sir. Thank you very much. My name is Samuel Edem from Blue Crest College. Now, first of all, I would stick to the idea of we are not different. We are in a global economy. We are in a global market. But my question is, in the team performance organizational model, how do you bring in the element of healthy competition, which is very necessary for innovation and creativity in a so-called meritocratic organizational model? Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, that was a great question. Thing that yesterday when I arrived here at the airport in Accra, I noticed that there is no social pressure there. No peer pressure. Everybody does a little, and you know, it happens at Volkswagen all the time. I see the same thing at Volkswagen all the time. I'm not judging that especially, but an organization that is radically decentralized, radically networked, decentralized, and that empowers teams, it needs there's one secret ingredient that Agile and Scrum also provide or produce. It is much better than trust, by the way. It is social density. Social density is one of the core things that the radically complexity robust, the radically mango, the radically decentralized organization needs. We need social density. Social density is to work with a small group of peers and feel responsible, working for each other, with each other. If you do not have that, so if social density dissolves, then you have, you know, everyone can behave as he or she likes it. And that is never good. We need social density, group pressure or team pressure. And to build that, we need to get rid of command and control. You know, in command and control, bureaucracy, hierarchy, you never have team pressure because you have steering and controlling from the top. You have pressure from the top. So you have to opt, and this is for Capital One in England as well as for all your organizations. If you want to have team performance, team pressure, social density, you have to get rid of all these bullshit practices, the centralized steering, the centralized planning, the rules.
Okay, guys. 1 minute.
Nana, my dear friend.
Quick question, your thinking and what you've been doing. Does this actually apply to, let's say, the military, a military organization, a police organization, a security organization? Because we hear that the CIA and the FBI, they're using Agile now, and the British police and the Rwanda government, the British government. So now Agile has now filtered into the public sector. Now, will it work for a police organization?
Thank you. That was it. No. That's a consulting thing I do. It's a consulting method. If there's no good answer to the question, turn it around and say it's not the right question. So I say that to my friends and clients. The right question is, okay, or no, not the right question. The right answer is, there is a mango in every pyramid. Every police, every military, every public sector organization already has this value creation structure, this team structure inside. It is just weak, like a badly trained muscle. It's not really trained. It's a weak muscle. We drive organizations so much through the pyramid and command and control that value creation structure becomes weakened and softened and ineffective. And that is what happens in many organizations, of course. The secret to it is do less formal structure, less command and control, get the practices out of the system that belong to formal structure, and do more in terms of agile, team structure, social density. Does that work? Of course it works. Does it work in military? Of course it works. Does it work in police? Of course. Many police organizations have undergone this kind of transformation and have seen that with the same people, they had far better results, far more responsibility, and so on.
I only asked that question on purpose, just because we have our police colleagues here as well.
Yes. And of course there is already a mango in that organization as well.
That was a very powerful question.
The
and
mango
very
wants to be
powerful answer.
liberated. Please liberate the mango in your organizations. That's my fighting spirit.
So can I just say that, no, hold on. No, I don't see everything now. Okay. Can I just say that was a very powerful answer to a very, very important question. And what's happened is that we have to come to the end of our session, but if I don't let the police ask their question, I will be in trouble. This is why I want you people to do revolution.
I actually been thinking in my head the application of Agile in the police service. Mm-hmm. You know, the challenge in this regimental organization is that when something goes wrong, it is the man at the top whose head will be put on the block. So you realize that reporting system is not among teams, but you have to let him know about it, because if it fails, he's going to go.
Yes. That's why people at the top have such great salaries.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. I have here...
But you cannot do the work on your own. You're totally right.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but we cannot confuse, position with responsibility to act. Once we think that my position means that I have to act and decide, then we get into trouble. Yeah.
I believe that with a team, the IT team in the police service will be a team that can properly, apply Agile and maybe set as an example for other departments and units to emulate.
Yes.
That is why we are here with the IT team of the police service. And I strongly believe that, like you said, there are many mangoes in the pyramid. And this is exactly what we will have to propagate and then ensure that we flatten the pyramid a little bit.
Yes, flatten the pyramid is one thing, But what I would recommend to all of you, thank you for that contribution. What I would recommend is let's go beyond flattening. Because in the idea of a flatter organization, there is still the notion that the top steers the bottom, that there is thinking on top and execution or non-thinking work at the bottom. And we have to get past that. Independent of how much your people earn, what their job title is, we have to get them to both think and act and learn to be responsible within teams. And I think that's the big challenge. Not flattening, but radically decentralizing. So I think this is the big paradigm shift, you know. Can our people do that? And they have to do it. Thank you very much.
Big round of applause, everybody.
Great question, thank you.